Have you ever noticed that quiet, unspoken tension that can creep into a relationship when things in the bedroom cool down? It's that strange, almost imperceptible shift when the physical connection seems to fade, and suddenly, you and your partner feel like you're living on two different planets. It's a common experience, something most couples go through, whether they admit it or not. But what's truly fascinating, and often misunderstood, is how this dry spell affects men and women in profoundly different ways. What if I told you that the entire complex, emotional, and often frustrating dynamic of a sexless period in a relationship could be summed up in just 4 simple, powerful words? Let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. Everyone, and I mean everyone, goes through these dry spells. Life has a relentless way of getting in the way, doesn't it? A high-pressure project at work demands all your mental energy. Financial stress casts a long, dark shadow over everything. Or perhaps the sheer exhaustion of parenting leaves you with zero bandwidth for anything else. Sometimes, it's the slow creeping effect of emotional distance, where unspoken resentments build a silent wall between you. Whatever the reason, intimacy can often be the first thing to be pushed to the back burner. It's a delicate part of the relationship ecosystem, and when it's neglected, the ripple effects can be surprisingly dramatic. But here does the crucial part that so many couples miss. Men and women don't just experience this lull in the same way. They react on fundamentally different planes, almost as if they're speaking 2 different emotional languages. The entire confusing, frustrating, and often heartbreaking experience can be distilled down to a 4-word truth. Men get frustrated, women disconnect. When a man finds himself in a period of prolonged intimacy drought, his reaction is often visceral and immediate, manifesting as a building sense of frustration. It's a common misconception to think this is purely about a physical need, a simple biological urge that isn't being met. While that's certainly a component, it runs so much deeper. For many men, physical intimacy is a primary way they receive validation and feel desired. It's a tangible confirmation that they are wanted, that they are masculine, and that they are important to their partner. It's a core part of how they process emotions and feel connected. When that physical affirmation is absent, it can trigger a cascade of negative feelings. A man might start to feel rejected, not just sexually, but as a person. His self-esteem can take a significant hit, leading him to question his attractiveness and his place in the relationship. This internal turmoil often bubbles to the surface in ways that can be confusing to his partner. You might see him become increasingly moody, irritable, or quick to anger over seemingly small things. That frustration needs an outlet, and if it's not being channeled through a positive, intimate connection, it will find another way out. He might snap at a question about his day, or seem sullen and withdrawn for no apparent reason. For others, this pent-up energy is redirected into other areas of life with an almost obsessive focus. He might suddenly start spending every spare hour at the gym, pushing his body to its physical limits. Or perhaps he'll throw himself into his work, logging longer and longer hours at the office, using professional achievement as a substitute for the validation he's missing at home. He might even dive headfirst into a demanding hobby, whether it's rebuilding an old car in the garage or mastering a complex video game. These activities become a release valve, a way to burn off the restless energy and frustration that's building inside him. It's his way of coping, of trying to manage an internal state of disquiet that he may not even have the words to articulate. To him, the lack of sex isn't just a lack of sex. It's a fundamental disruption of his sense of self and his emotional equilibrium. For women, the reaction to a prolonged lack of intimacy is typically a much quieter, more internal, and emotionally layered experience. While a man's reaction is often an outward projection of frustration, a woman's response tends to be an inward retreat. When physical intimacy fades, she doesn't usually feel frustrated in the same way a man does. Instead, she begins to feel emotionally disconnected. For her, the act of physical intimacy is often the culmination of emotional closeness, not the starting point. It's the physical expression of a bond that is already strong and secure. It's a confirmation of being cherished, understood, and emotionally seen. So when that physical expression disappears, her brain interprets it as a sign that the underlying emotional connection is also deteriorating. She starts to feel unloved, unseen, and unimportant. It's as if a vital channel of communication has been shut down, leaving her feeling isolated within the relationship. This feeling of emotional abandonment is a powerful force. It is less about a physical craving and far more about a deep-seated need for emotional security and belonging. Without the regular reassurance that comes from physical touch, shared vulnerability, and mutual desire, her own desire begins to wane. It's a protective mechanism. Why would she open herself up physically to someone she no longer feels emotionally close to? The emotional distance creates a chasm that physical desire simply cannot cross. This is where the cycle becomes so tragically self-perpetuating. The less emotionally connected she feels, the less she desires physical intimacy. And the less physical intimacy there is, the more emotionally disconnected she becomes. It's a quiet, downward spiral that can lead to a profound sense of loneliness, even while sharing a bed with her partner. This emotional disconnection can manifest as a subtle withdrawal. She might become less communicative, share fewer details about her day, and stop initiating the small, everyday gestures of affection that once came so naturally. A quiet, invisible wall goes up, brick by brick, as she retreats further into herself to protect her heart from the perceived coldness and distance. And herein lies the great, tragic irony that traps so many couples in a silent standoff. Both partners are, in their own way, waiting for the exact same thing, but they define it differently and expect it to be initiated from opposite ends of the spectrum. They are both waiting for the other person to make the first move, to bridge the gap that has grown between them. The man, feeling frustrated and rejected, is often thinking, if we could just be intimate, if she would just show me she desires me, then I would feel close to her again. We would reconnect, and everything would be okay. He sees physical affection as the key to unlocking emotional closeness. He wants affection in order to feel close. The woman, on the other hand, feeling emotionally disconnected and unloved, is thinking, if he would just talk to me, hold me, show me he cares about my feelings and what's going on in my world, then I would feel close enough to him to want to be intimate. She sees emotional connection as the prerequisite for physical desire. She needs to feel close in order to want affection. They are stuck in a classic chicken and egg dilemma, each waiting for the other to provide the very thing they are unable to give. He's waiting for a physical green light, while she's waiting for an emotional one. This fundamental misunderstanding of each other EDSA needs is what can turn a temporary dry spell into a long-term, relationship-defining crisis. It's not a lack of love that's the problem. It's a lack of understanding and a breakdown in communication. That's precisely why small, deliberate acts of warmth and connection are so incredibly powerful. They can act as a reset button for the entire emotional system. A simple, non-sexual hug that lasts a few seconds longer than usual, the gentle touch of a hand on the small of her back as he walks by, or an honest, vulnerable conversation where both people lay down their weapons and just listen. These are the things that can begin to dismantle the wall. It's about restarting the flow of emotional currency that has been blocked, proving that the desire for connection exists outside of the bedroom. So, the next time you feel that familiar, uncomfortable distance growing between you and your partner, when the silence feels a little too heavy and the space in the bed feels a little too wide, take a step back from the brink of misunderstanding. Before you let resentment or loneliness take root, remember that 4-word truth. It's the key to unlocking the entire puzzle, the secret decoder ring to what your partner is truly experiencing. Just remember, men get frustrated, women disconnect. Understanding this single, simple dynamic is the first, most crucial step toward finding your way back to each other.